Hi, it's Recovery Mom. I'm in the car. I'm about to go into physical therapy. I wanted to answer this question. Oh, I'm sweating. I'm sweating really bad. Let's see. Let's hit it because this is a big question. How would you describe the difference between extreme hunger and binge eating? Okay. First of all, there's been a lot of research into binge eating disorder and other eating disorders. And I would say that eating disorders almost always are caused by an evolutionary genetic thing that we have in us to help us adapt through times of like famine. Some people like me in times of famine, our anorexia switch turns on, and what does our body do? It starts to move all the time. It starts to feel bad if it eats. It starts to hallucinate fat stores on our body. If you have the evolutionary component for binge eating disorder in your brain, you have that biological aspect and that gets turned on at some point for whatever reason, your body starts to store fat and it starts to seek out like the binging behavior to put on more in times of need. And it's often also from restriction, okay? And so there's been some research into binge eating disorder. It's an eating disorder, just like anorexia, just like ARFID, just like, bulimia. But the difference is extreme hunger is a specific thing that happens to you when you're recovering from a restrictive eating disorder. So what I think people get confused in is if you have anorexia or a restrictive eating disorder, you're not going to get binge eating disorder. You simply cannot have both of those evolutionary adaptations at the same time. So if you have anorexia, if you have ARFID, if you have a restrictive eating disorder, you are not getting binge eating disorder. It would be like 0.001% of the population if that were to even happen. What you have is extreme hunger, okay? Binge eating disorder is its own eating disorder, separate from anorexia. Now, extreme hunger and binge eating disorder, they feel the same a lot. They feel the same. And I think that's why people get so confused, because when you have extreme hunger, you feel out of control around food. You feel like your hunger is just taking over. You feel like you have no choice but to eat and eat and eat. And you feel like it's never going to end, right? And I think a lot of those same feelings happen when people have binge eating disorder. So what I would say is, if you're coming from a place of a restrictive eating disorder, you do not have and you are not getting binge eating disorder. Okay, I hope that made sense. Oh man, is this a good question? Oof. It says, hi, any advice on how to cope when you're in recovery and are around people who knowingly have eating disorders and aren't recovering as well? Talks about how, and then they go on to say it's hard, it's triggering, all those things. And I can imagine, right? I am definitely in my workplace around people with eating disorders, right? And I'm sure, I don't know whether you're talking about friends or loved ones or people you have to live with. Many people have eating disorders. Many people have very triggering bodies, right? So it's your job in your recovery to become trigger proof. That's part of recovering. Part of recovering is gaining the weight, eating, getting to our set point, doing some work around body size, all of that stuff, neural rewiring. And during all of that, you really have to do some work around what are your triggers, right? And how you're going to work around those. So for me, specifically, when I would see people in those bodies or doing those behaviors, and it would remind me. And the funny thing about an eating disorder is you always get reminded of how wonderful anorexia is, right? When you see those bodies, when you see those people not eating or throwing up or like whatever it is that they're doing, the behaviors, when you see people doing that, your brain is like, oh my God, I missed that. It was so nice. It was so wonderful. It felt so good. It's so comforting. It's my best friend. Oh man, I want to go back there. It felt so good. Honestly, stop and fact check that. Think about that. Do a reality check. If it felt that good, why the fuck are you recovering? It didn't feel good. It wasn't nice. It didn't feel calm and loving and comforting. Your eating disorder sucked. It was horrible. You were cold. You couldn't eat food, and you wanted to eat food. I know you did. You wanted to eat food and you couldn't eat food, and there's so many things that you watched other people eat that you wanted. Well, now that you're recovering, you can eat those things. So you have to remind yourself that it wasn't a good time back then. The eating disorder wasn't all fun and games. It wasn't all comfort and love. It was horrible. You have to remember the horrible parts of the eating disorder, right? It was shitting your pants. I shit my pants in my brand new white seated car one time. It's horrible eating disorders. They are awful. They suck. And you know that. I know you know that. But when we see those bodies, when we see other people doing those behaviors, for some reason, our brains don't remember that. That's not what they go to. Our brains remember the good things, the good times, the positive feelings. So you have to remind yourself, that is not what an eating disorder is. It wasn't what it was for you. It wasn't what it was for me. It's not what it is for those people who are in it now. Those people are suffering and they hate it. They want out. So keep going on your path, put the blinders on, and every time you see that, you have to remind yourself of how horrible those times truly were. And for Dangerous Outing, it's Lou and Recovery Mom.
And we have a question. And the question is, I'm currently eating 2200 kcal, I guess, and I've gained a lot of weight. Should I eat more if my body gets bigger? Because I've heard that if you're getting bigger, your body also needs more energy/food, and by that logic, I would lose weight again if I keep eating the same amount, right?
Wow, that's actually a really amazing question. Okay, let me go.
Yeah. We're never going to get to Target.
No, that's a really good question because, like, honestly, if you're eating a certain amount of calories and you gain weight, right, you would think, calories in, calories out, that you're going to need more calories to maintain the new weight that you're now at, right? That makes total sense. Except here's the thing. Likely, you are going to need more calories. I agree. I think you'll probably need more calories. I think you're going to hit a phase in recovery where you're going to need 5,000, 10,000 calories a day, extreme hunger. That's going to happen. But calories in, calories out is not as simple as height, weight, and, you know, the calories that you think you need for your body, basal your BMR or whatever. It's not that simple, because when you have an eating disorder, a lot of crazy stuff happens to our metabolism, right? Your metabolism slows way down when you lose weight. As you gain weight, it also might rev up a little bit. It might take longer to rev up. So where your metabolism is right now might be a lot different than where it is when you gain 10 pounds, right? It might be a lot different than where it is when you gain 5 pounds, or it might stay the same for quite a while, okay? And we just don't know that. So will you need more calories as you gain weight? Likely you will. For sure, maybe not. If you do start losing weight, you have to start bumping up those calories and adding some more food. Do you have to do that as a preemptive strike? No, not really, right?
Is that the right word to use?
Preemptive, I don't know.
Strike?
I don't know. But the most important thing is you need to eat to your brain hunger and your body hunger. That's the most important thing. It's not so much about how many calories you eat. If I was going to tell you that about a minimum calories you need in recovery, I would shoot for 3,500. That's what I would shoot for as a minimum calorie requirement in recovery. So you're way under that. You have a lot of space to move. 2,200 calories isn't really that much. 2,200 calories.
Wait, are kcals and calories the same thing?
No. 2,200 calories is actually less than I eat right now as my maintenance as a 51-year-old woman that's already fully recovered. So you actually could probably eat a lot more, and you probably will need to in your recovery. But more importantly than the amount of calories you need to eat is making sure you eat every time your brain thinks of food. Hi, Recovery Mom, and I love this question. It says, hi, I just wanted to ask, when does the bloating go away after eating? Because the next morning it's still there. Or is it just my dysmorphia? So it could be either, okay? When I had bad bloating, I would go to bed looking 9 months pregnant. I mean, I have some pictures way deep in kind of my triggering part of my Instagram. And I would force my kids to take pictures of my stomach because I just could not believe how big and bloated it was. It was shocking to me how big and bloated it was. And the next morning, would it all be gone? No, it would still be pretty bloated the next morning many, many times. And our bodies, when we have an eating disorder, our digestive tract has slowed down, right? We haven't been feeding it enough. Our motility is slowed. Because of that, food takes a long time to work through. So it's normal that in the morning, when you are recovering from an eating disorder, you very well could still be bloated. Could it be your dysmorphia? Absolutely. So what I would wonder is there a safe person, a friend, somebody that you can ask their opinion if it's bloating or not? You could always do that. I had my husband that I could ask. I had my kids, my poor kids. I used to talk way too much about my body and food, honestly. I was always asking them questions. Who do I look like? Does that person look like me? Is that body type like me? Like, I was so stuck on my body and food, my my poor kids. Anyway, you could ask somebody, a friend, right? A loved one, if you have this question, if you're not sure. And that might be a nice fact check for your body dysmorphia. And then you'll know, no, I'm not bloated. It is just in my mind. Either way, you still have to eat breakfast. Either way, you still have to eat through it, whether you're bloated or not, whether it's in your mind or not, you still have to get up and eat, right? So really, it's not going to affect your recovery in any way, because through recovery, we have to eat bloated all the time. We have to eat through fullness. We have to eat through bloat. We have to eat through stomach pain. We have to eat through a lot of uncomfortable and painful shit. We do. We just have to keep eating. So it kind of what it comes down to is it could be bloating, perfectly normal. I definitely have bloat the next morning many, many times. If not, it's possible it could be body dysmorphia, right? You could always ask a friend or somebody to do a little fact check, tell you what they think. But honestly, doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter what it is. If it is bloating, it's recovery bloat from your recovery, and eventually it will go away as long as you keep feeding over time, keep giving your body the food that it needs. That bloating will abate and go away with time, right? And then if it's not the bloating and it's body dysmorphia, either way you still need to eat. So you still need to wake up, keep eating, keep going in recovery, right? So I hope that answers your question. It's been a little while, so let me know how it's going. Let me know if the bloat has gone away yet. Hi, let's talk about set points real quick. Whew, I am so hot. I have an appointment. I need to go in. It's actually in 3 minutes, so let's see if we can do this in 3 minutes. It says, please, how do you know when you're at your set point, and how do you even maintain a set point? So, super fast. How do you know you're at your set point? It's because you're eating anything you want to, all of the time. So like if I wake up in the morning and my brain is like pancakes and syrup, I have that. When I was first in recovery, I would wake up in the morning and sometimes my brain would say cheeseburger and fries. I would have that. And then at lunch, it would say cheeseburger and fries again, and I would have it again. And then at dinner, I would have it again. Sometimes I would want ice cream all day. Sometimes it was pancakes. I had definite phases. But the thing is, I gained a lot of weight through that, as will you, as will we all, right? That's part of recovery. We're going to gain. Then you're going to get to your set point or your overshoot, okay? And how you know you're there is you're still eating every single thing your body and brain asks for, but you stop gaining. And it's really weird because for me, I was still eating like the same amount. So I don't even know how many calories I was eating. I was eating like 5,000 plus calories a day, right? I was eating tons of food, sometimes even more. And then all of a sudden, my weight would go up, stay a little bit, go up, stay a little bit, go up, stay, and I'd freak out every time it would go up. I'd have a panic attack, work through it, gain a little more, right? Huge ordeal. Then, even though I was eating the same, my weight kind of didn't go up. It just kind of hovered. It just kind of stayed there, okay? And a few times it stayed there for months. Then it went up another 5-10 pounds. Then it kind of stayed there for a few months. So I still had about 20 pounds that came on super, super slowly, okay? So I still wasn't at my set point. I thought I was multiple times, but I wasn't. I'm at my set point now. And I was still eating that full, like over 5,000 calories a day. And my weight would just kind of like stay the same. It would stagnate. And eventually my appetite kind of reduced. I didn't eat as much. Maybe if I craved a burger, it was just once a day, not 3 times a day, right? And so when you get to that point, you still have to make sure you're not restricting. So when I did hit my set point, I did have some times of lack of hunger because I started getting like sorrowful over food. I started getting very sad that I already ate the things I wanted to eat. I already ate all the burgers, all the fries, all the pancakes, and I just kind of got sad that there was nothing else new, but I still had to mechanically eat through that. So you still have to make sure you eat enough even when you're at your set point so that you don't lose. Then your set point just settles, and then you just listen to your hunger, and then you just eat, and you know you're there because you don't lose weight when you miss meals, and you don't gain weight when you eat more. It just kind of fights. Hi, it's Recovery Mom.
And Beva.
And I have a question that says, what do I do if I'm hungrier than my meal plan? I just stepped down from inpatient to PHP, and I've been getting hungry. I go home at 6. Then they go on to say they feel very guilty if they don't eat, or if they eat more than their meal plan, or if they're even, they get guilty, and I used to feel this way. You even feel guilty if you just realize that you want more than your meal plan, right? So I don't know if your meal plan is like exchanges or calories or, just like based on meals and snacks, but I will say, if you want to eat something, if your brain is asking for food, mental hunger, if your body is asking for a lot of food, extreme hunger, and you don't feed it, that's restricting, right? That is essentially an eating disorder behavior. So we have to start looking at it like that, okay? It is kind of that black and white. When we're in recovery, we have to feed our bodies when it asks, and it's safe and it's okay. And it's how we're going to recover. So the fact that your body wants more food than your meal plan is amazing because it means that your hormones and neurotransmitters are starting to get flipped on. They're starting to moving in the right direction. Your gastrointestinal tract is moving along and making yourself ready for more food earlier than maybe it was before in the beginning of recovery. And so that can scare us sometimes because we're like, is this the beginning of extreme hunger? Is this ever going to go away? I feel like I could eat a lot. Why am I wanting more than my meal plan? I should only be wanting, my meal plan. But know that this is normal and this is how recovery goes, right? You'll have a meal plan. You'll need more than that. You'll have a bigger meal plan. You'll need more than that. And eventually you'll realize that you don't need a meal plan at all. For me, I used to use Recovery Record as my meal plan. And I used to send all the things I ate to my dietitian and to my therapist. And I realized eventually that it was kind of holding me back because I was feeling guilt and shame when I wanted to eat more food, when I wanted to eat junk food, right? Junk food, when I wanted to eat fast food. I was uncomfortable because I didn't want to log it in Recovery Record. I didn't want everybody to know. It just made me feel shame and guilt. So that's when I knew I was ready to go without Recovery Record, right? And jump in there and eat all the foods. And that's kind of when extreme hunger hit. So it's okay and safe to eat more than your meal plan. In fact, it's a necessity to recover to begin to out-eat your meal plans as you go along. That is normal. So you need to give into that. Go ahead and feed that and know that that is just bringing you closer to recovery, which is the goal, right? So go ahead and give into that hunger and eat all of those yummy foods.